Hey tribe, how you guys doing? I want to welcome everybody who's coming in to hear me speak with the one of the stars of Martha's Vineyard Summer House over on Bravo. Mr. Preston Mitchum is here today. I'm going to bring him up now. Good afternoon. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
I am so good. I'm so good. I'm a little nervous, but I'm good.
Oh, listen, not for me. This is gonna be a good time. Look.
That's what I keep hearing. I keep hearing you are such a good time. So
Listen, look, thank you. Thank you to everyone who's made that rumor come true. No.
we So we are at the end. The season finale was Sunday.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of get back to that. But how do you feel about season 2? Like, where are you with season 2? Now this, I know you can't get into the reunion, but how you feeling about it?
I'm just leaning into gratitude. Like I think I am very much a person whose life before I joined the cast felt very specific. Like I knew exactly what I was doing. I was happy with what I was doing, grateful what I was doing. But obviously God and other powers that be were like, no, bigger, right?
We never know.
Bigger. We see,
right.
You
never know what that is. Yeah.
Right. And I was like, no matter how nervous this is, I'm a reality TV watcher. We are hard on each other.
Yes.
So, I knew what it could be, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so a lot of it, I'm sitting in gratitude because I'm like, I just can't believe that I even have this opportunity. Truthfully, like it didn't have to happen to me, and the network and the production company saw something specifically in me to contribute to the cast. And so I think that is where I am. I'm just sitting in gratitude consistently.
Okay, so that's a great springboard. Let's go back. Who is Preston? How did we get here?
Listen, an enigma, I guess. No, but but I think in many ways, right? Like the way I oftentimes talk about myself is like I am an unapologetic Black queer man who really loves Black and queer folks and women. And so for me, that really means like leaning into the communities that I care about, advocating on the issues that I love. So most of my work as an attorney has been in sexual health law and policy. It's been on assuring women and pregnant folks have access to abortion care and abortion-related services if needed. A lot of my work has been on maternal health policy and newborn and child health policy. So, a lot of it is just on the things I care about. And even the things that don't directly... Busy, right? Even the things
last couple of years, I'm sure.
Oh my God, let me tell you. But even the things that don't directly impact me, I still understand why it matters to many other marginalized folks. And so that was the spirit I wanted to bring into like reality TV. In many ways, I hadn't seen it, and certainly not from a Black queer man, right? Like and on a network as big as Bravo and as vast as Bravo, and as a center, right? One of the center folks, right? When I say that about all of my castmates, not necessarily like a side character, if you will, like an accessory to their best friends. And that's something I don't think we've really seen on reality TV, right?
I was going to actually touch on that. I was actually going to touch on the LGBTQ representation on Bravo, specifically, not picking on Bravo, but I was having a conversation with another one of my YouTuber friends, and we were having that conversation about, like, I know Mr. J, I think, that used to be on Atlanta.
So it's Derek J. There's
Derek J. That's it, Derek J. Yeah, he made a comment about that he felt like an accessory. I remember him talking about that. And so, one thing I'm gonna say about Martha's Vineyard that I love as a Black woman, what I love is that we are seeing the Black men. We are getting such a different representation.
Yes.
Where do we see a Preston? Where do we see a Nick? Even Amir, that first season, being honest about, hey, I'm biracial, and I didn't really grow up around, so I'm learning as, and this is, so I think we don't get to have those conversations. So for that, I was so happy when you guys got a second season, because I just think it's so important this season with the whole D9 conversation and explaining about strolling, and like I'm a HBCU grad, so just all of those things are just so important to our culture that I'm really happy to see. But I definitely wanted to touch on how you felt as the representation of being on LGBTQ community.
Yeah, reality TV does a lot of good things well and a lot of things poorly. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I had to realize is that Black men are not seen a lot on, we have, let's just say Bravo, just because that is the network, right? They're not really seen on Bravo. And if they are, right, they're like the husbands of housewives largely.
Right. Right.
And I think for that, it's easy to deduce people to caricatures, right, or stereotypes based on the limited time you do get to see them. I think what is so brilliant and beautiful about Summer House Martha's Vineyard, to your point around the Black men in particular, we are all very dynamic, all very unique. And at the end of the day, there's still a lot of love between us four, particularly this season I'm talking about. There's just still a lot of love, a lot of support, a lot of accountability, a lot of call outs and call ins in ways that I think you can't make us fit in a one-dimensional way in the way you could for other shows, because you get to see us in a very dynamic way. I think if we go back even to being cast for the show, I had a lot of pros and cons, right? You should have, oh my God, Fran, you should have seen my list. It was like, I had so many cons on this list because it was like, to be honest with you, like on Twitter, like, I think now I have like 60,000 followers, but before I started doing this, I had like 45. Like I was already like pretty talkative and had a decent amount of followers on social media. Frankly, I was already writing many articles for websites back, like The Root, Out Magazine, Ebony, Essence. Like, you check it, I've written a lot of articles for them from like 2014 to 2020. And so, I was just like, I don't need this, right? Like, this is something, and actually it could probably ruin the things that I've worked so hard for.
Depending on the editing, yeah.
Exactly. You can't control a lot of storyline. Right? Everything is not about, right? Everything is not edited, right, in a way that's poor, right? Obviously, you have to accept some of the things that you just did too. But also, there are some things that are heavy edited, and you're like, oh, I can't even talk about it in this way. So I just didn't know how that would be viewed or perceived. But then I had to look at the pro list. And I think even though the pro list, to be honest, wasn't as long as the con list, I think what was on it outweighed the con list. And one of the biggest things was on there was being a possibility model for Black queer folks growing up when you didn't have the opportunity to see yourself on TV. And that mattered so much to me because, to your statement earlier, you do have like your Miss Lawrences, your Derek Jays, your Dwights, who I also found all very endearing on the Housewives of Atlanta.
Right.
I just think, unfortunately, because you only got to see them being like stereotypical, not their fault. Right. That's just kind of how it was produced in many ways.
Right.
Like it was easy to deduce people. Right, to like these stereotypes or caricatures. And I knew they were so much more dynamic than that. They just didn't have the screen time to show them, to really show their authentic selves. And so to me, that mattered so much more than anything else. And particularly doing it and being a cast member, right? Like, not somebody who says, oh, that's just, so-and-so's friend. It's like, no, this is Preston and he has friends.
Absolutely.
Right? To me, that mattered a lot. And I had never seen that on a network like Bravo.
Yes. So I'm glad we went there, because again, that was a question. And I'm glad to see it, because like you said, when you look at the Derek Jays and the Dwights, they were accomplished. They were business owners. They were, but like you said, but they were reduced to almost accessories. And again, not any fault of their own. I think that they maximized their 15 minutes, but they, but like you said, I think that shows the growth on a lot of people's ends with production, with Bravo, with what people want to see. Because let's be clear, they show us what we show them we want to see.
Exactly.
So we're saying we want to see more Prestons. We want to see more of this representation.
Yeah, because I used to watch it and think, where's their show? Like, I just couldn't help that, because I'm like, they are funny, they're dynamic, they're shady, they're fashionable. Like, where are they?
Right. And so I think that's a great place where we are. And again, I hope we continue to build on that. Like we want Preston to be the first, not the only, right? Or one of the first.
Amen. Because look, because I don't like being the first, honestly. I don't, and I certainly don't like being alone either, right? Like everybody can eat, everyone should be able to eat. So I really do hope that this is just the beginning for a lot of things that can come.
So going back to, okay, you had your pros and cons. I can definitely understand that. I do it all the time. And you making the decision to be on the show. I know a lot of you guys were already connected somehow, but you and Silas were connected, right? You're line brothers.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So Silas is like, for me, the connective tissue. He is my line brother. We're both members of Alpha Phi Alpha. So that is who really, honestly, kind of brought me into a lot of these opportunities, or at least I should say this opportunity.
Silas gets a bad rap, but shout out to Silas.
Yeah, like that's the thing too. Even he and I had our moments where I'm like, I don't know, friend, I love you, but I don't know how you. I don't like this. But you know what? But that's always gonna be. I'm always gonna be honest about that, right? Like he is the one who really connected me.
I think that's also something that we as the audience loved about Preston, is that Preston holds people accountable, right? Like Preston can be a little messy, but when he's talking to the girls and he's having his girl talk, but he's also very much, well, you don't think that you could have said that differently, or you don't think you could. So I think that so I don't think we're surprised that you're holding people accountable. So looking at season 1 and season 2. As a reviewer, I'm going to be honest, because you might see it one day and be like, she didn't tell me she said that. When I saw you at the beginning of season 1 and I did my review, season 2, I was like, Preston seems a lot more comfortable this season. I'm going to be honest. I even thought maybe you had broken up with your boyfriend, which now we know is your fiance. Congratulations. But I was like, Preston is walking in the door with a different level of, I don't want to use the word confidence, because I think you were confident season 1, but comfortability, I think maybe is the word. Do you feel that coming into season 2, you were a little more comfortable in the experience?
Yeah, I think that's an honest statement, though. Yeah, but it's funny. So I think there are a couple of dynamics that I think cause some of the shifts, if you will. So like season 1, just keeping it real, I was working a lot that summer. So, and I was like, there's no way I can really engage as much as I really want to engage, because I got work. There were even moments that I didn't even know what really happened, like between Bria and Mariah, for example. I didn't know about any of that until like people told me about it later. And then, because I wasn't there. I mean, I was in the house, but I was in a totally different room. And so, when I found out what happened, I said, well, that was a little exaggerated. That didn't really happen how I saw it happen. But like, okay, sure. But I was working so much that, there were moments I would close the laptop and I'm I got to film for a few hours and then come back. So it was easy to stay out of the mess, to be honest. Very easy. I think season 2, I had launched my own company, so thankfully I had a lot more control over my schedule. But I think also, friendships were more specific. I trusted people a little bit more. I trusted some people a little less. And it was just easy for me personally to kind of create the experience that I wanted, that I thought I would have had season 1. And that's I had a great experience first season as well. But, it's interesting. Like some folks would say, like, thankfully I was still like more positively received as well in season 2. Some instances better, which is funny because some people will be like, I don't know, I kind of like the vocal messy Preston a little bit. And then other folks were like, oh, I don't know, I don't really like this. And it's like, but both of these people are me. Right. Like, like the quiet Preston is me, the talkative, messy Preston is me. Right. Like you may love one or the other, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm one way for your benefit. Right. There are going to be some moments.
The first couple of episodes we were getting of season 2, we were getting the messy Preston. I was like, okay, Preston, I see you.
Because after a while, people do exhaust you a little bit more. People do, and so you kind of have to be like, should I not say something because you like that better? No, I'm actually frustrated in this moment. and I'm going to say something. Even still, it's interesting, right? Because even those comments that are a little bit more critical, I shouldn't say negative, but are still a little bit more critical, I'm always laugh because I'm always like, you still have only seen me have conflict with one person, though, in 2 seasons. Like, it's not as if suddenly, like, I'm beefing with people. Like, no, it's been one person for overall in 2 seasons. So it's still fascinating, but nonetheless, I'm like, all these sides are real, all these sides are me. But the reality is I was a little bit more comfortable even coming in to the second season. And frankly, it was really because I trusted some relationships and I didn't trust others.
Got you. Yeah, because you gave us, I'm gonna go ahead and let you know, I use this all the time. I use it all the time.
So it's so funny. What I was not expecting was to be the meme queen of the season.
Oh, man.
When I tell you, fans are so funny to me because they'll reply to me with something I said with one of my memes.
Right.
And it's just so funny.
When I saw that meme, I stole it. I said, oh, yeah, I said, and I use it all the time. It is hilarious because it says so much.
It does. Like, it says curiosity. It says stank. It says annoyance. Like, it says so many things.
It says, why are you bothering me right now? Can I just eat my crab? Can I have my crab?
That's it. That's it. I just want some more melted butter. Look.
Right. Okay. So we go into season 2 and we start off really, really heavy. You sharing with us the story of your dad's passing, but you and your dad having a very complicated relationship. Right. You shared it on the show, so I don't want to necessarily rehash all of that. However, I know that it extended into your dad's family. Have you? Because I believe it was you and your sister.
Yeah, my 2 sisters actually, but one of them in particular I talk about a little bit more.
So, have you guys been able to make any headway, or has there been any movement on the relationship with your dad's family?
You know, it's interesting, and though I don't want to rehash what it was already stated, I do want to go back a little bit to even explain like why it was important for me to even bring it up, because I didn't have to. Like, I could have truly ignored it, but the reality is it did kind of shift some of. We only filmed for 15 and 16 days, right? So that's still a relatively short time when you're thinking of like grief. Like, it's just like, yeah, like maybe for some of y'all, I should only experience the grief day 1 or day 2, but it's like, no, this is actually throughout. Like, I'm actually even if you're not hearing the discussions, right? So I think part of it, I have so much love for Black folks. I also question some of the traditions and practices that we do. And so one of them is just the way we talk about people at their death, or don't remain honest about people at their death. Because for some people, right, it's don't speak ill of the dead. For others, it's very much just like, oh, well, what can they do now? But I've learned for myself a long time ago, if you want me to speak positively about you at your death, don't be an asshole at your life. And for me, you know, I'm like, God, my relationship with God teaches me that God understands exactly that. He also teaches me that I don't have to pretend that I'm not harmed because you're now no longer with us, right? And so that, to me, it was important to have a conversation about my father and our complicated and estranged relationship, because do I think he was the worst person in the world? No. Do I feel like he was very problematic and really harmed me a lot during our life? Yes. And to me, that was important to be honest about, more than just save face for his name. I think also part of it, right, is that we don't have a good relationship. I think his family, that side of the family, are not the kindest people, if I'm just being honest about my experience with them. And I think cover a lot of things up and still do. So if I'm being honest, I think our relationship has gotten worse since filming.
Oh, wow.
And they don't watch the show. So I don't even think it's about the show. I just think that they wanted me and my sisters to show up in different ways. They wanted us to pay all the money for the funeral. They wanted us to do a lot of things. And we put our foot down. That's when the disinvitations occurred. That's when they stopped being in touch around even the funeral. And so when I said I got a Google alert, it's so funny. My father was not like a celebrity or anything, but when I got a Google alert, it's because they saw me as one. So when they had mentioned me being the son of him, they tagged me in it online. So that is when a Google alert was created, and I got it in my email, and I was like, wait, his funeral was when? because they never told me or my sisters.
Wow.
Never shared it with us. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I had that conversation with some friends a couple of days ago. I had to be like, listen, am I a serial killer or something? Because my mom called me to tell me about a family member that had just been diagnosed with a terminal situation. But this family member has never been particularly nice to me. This family member we never built any relationship or any bond.
Right.
And it was like I consciously knew what I was supposed to say, but I didn't really feel anything. And I think you said something along these lines. I'm paraphrasing, that you had sort of already mourned your father.
Correct. During his life.
I feel the same way. Like my relationship with this family member, I had already come to terms with it. And I mean, certainly I'm sorry that this is happening to them, but I don't have what I think. Like you said, we have to, kind of change our mindset about that, because I'm not going to fall out over the casket.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think, and honestly, I think the way some people come off about other people's death is a performance. Like, I'm like, you don't,
or their own guilt.
Or their own guilt.
Sometimes.
I'm like, you probably have not talked to that person. You probably really don't feel what you're feeling, but you know what you're supposed to say. You know how you're supposed to feel and experience these moments. But I also look at death differently than I think in many people. Like, it's one of those things where you're never happy, obviously, right? But thankfully, unfortunately, because I've experienced a lot of death when I was younger, more in my life, I kind of already was like, wow, we're here and then we're not here. And then you do the best you can do in the middle. Right. Yeah. And so, for a lot of people who are doing the best they can do when they're living, I'm going to honor them at life and at death. And I pray people do the same thing for me. I also just want us to remain honest and give people the ability to be honest around their sometimes mistreatment from people once they pass.
And I want to thank you for sharing that. Again, you didn't have to, and I appreciate that. But as someone who is an ally, and I think that it's always important, unfortunately, to understand that these stories are still out there. We still have, queer teens that are dealing with rejection from the people that they're supposed to be getting the love from. And so I think that sharing these stories are always important, for you never know who's watching and you never know who's receiving. And so I thank you for sharing that with us, with us. And the fact that you chose to sort of mourn with this group of selected friends. I think that says a lot as well, because like you said, you could have made some other decisions in that process. So that was an interesting way to start off the season. And like I said, I felt a different Preston coming in the house, right? So we got to meet Donald this season. I was so happy to see him.
Same. That was the one thing I remember viewers really wanting, because if I'm being honest with you, I was actually quite upset that Donald was introduced season 1, the second to the last episode, because clearly we had already talked throughout, right? Like, it wasn't like we just talked the first time on day 12. Right. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. And if I'm being more honest, it was during such a stereotypical episode. It was during the Pride episode. And I was like, okay. This is right. Like, this is a shock, I guess. So I was
gay boyfriend check.
Right, exactly. Gay boyfriend check, gay month check. I was like, okay, y'all. So it's a little bit too on the nose. But this season, I was so grateful that people really got an opportunity to see him.
Yes, and when I tell you we love Donald, we love Donald. Baby, when they show him sleep on that couch, I said, see, that's me. I understand. He said, listen, Preston is the social butterfly. Preston is working. Preston, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to get on this good couch.
That is so funny.
I am good.
I love it. No, as opposed to some people, I am grateful that I have a partner who is very supportive of me in my dreams and the things that I want to do. And frankly, he ain't going to do all of that for free. So it's just like, he is very much like, you caught that. Look. Like, y'all, I ain't getting no check sign over here.
Bravo ain't send me no coin.
Look.
I'm gonna give you a little 1-2, and then I'm gonna go ahead and sit down on this couch. I'm with it. I feel you, Donald. Now, see, I'm with him on that one. I'm with him on that one. I hate. Look, I was looking at you guys' engagement pictures, which are so beautiful, by the way. And then I was like, oh my gosh, they were in my city. I was like, because I live in DC. I was like, I said I would have loved to brunch with them. I feel like that would have been such a good time. So next time you guys are in the city, I owe you a drink. I owe you a drink. I don't know if you know
that's where we live.
Oh, I thought you moved from DC. I'm sliding in your DMs. We're going to brunch. I'm sliding in your DMs.
No, listen, look, we over here in Navy Yard. Yeah.
I worked over there for 10 years. I'm an educator. I worked at. I'm not going to say the name of the school, but I worked at a school down the street. I was over there. I worked there for 10 years. Oh my gosh! Yes. So did you guys just move to DC? I thought you were moved
away. Funny? No, we've been here for a while. I think most people. I've been here. 13 years. Donald moved to DC. Okay. Yeah, Donald moved to DC about 7 years ago. And so we both been here for a while. We actually met in DC around 2019. But it's so funny. So like Donald used to live in New York before DC, and before DC I was in North Carolina. But a lot of people think I live in New York. And so I'm like,
I thought you moved to. I thought you moved to New York.
Yeah. No.
Okay. All right.
Well, so when I see people out, they be like, "Oh my God, what you doing here?" I'm like, "Rent. What you?" That's what I'm doing here.
Listen. Okay. Listen. I know. I mean, I don't know exactly where you are, but I know the Navy Yard very well. Like I said, very well. Okay, well, I'm sliding your DMs. We're going to brunch. Okay. You said North Carolina. What part of North Carolina, if you don't mind?
So I went to law school at North Carolina Central. So I lived in Durham for 3 years. Yeah.
I went to Bennett for undergrad.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. And actually, my nephew just graduated from Central Law School 2 years ago.
Oh my God!
I couldn't go to his graduation because it was COVID. It was online, but. Yes. Oh my God. See, small world. Small world.
A lot of my family lives in Charlotte. So
I'm in North Carolina at minimum because I still have a lot of friends down there. At minimum, one of my best friends lives in Durham, as a matter of fact. He's a principal down there. I'm down there at minimum 4 to 5 times a year. I'm always in North Carolina. I love it. Yeah. So oh my gosh. Okay. Look at the world. So let's get a little messy. Let's go through some of the characters that I think, first of all, I'm going to start with Noelle. I think Noelle was a great addition.
Amazing.
I wasn't sure because she was giving me this, spoiled Southern Belle first episode, right? But I was here for Noelle this season. When I say Noelle, what do you think of?
Oh, dynamic, funny, great personality. Well dressed. Like I think she's dynamic. Yeah.
She was together. I loved her. And I loved not to get into that, but I loved how she stood her ground at the end with Summer. I loved it.
I think
a lot of times in reality TV we want to tie things up in a bow, and sometimes it's just deeper than that.
No, facts. Yeah.
And so I love that but I think she was definitely a great addition this season. Same. Let's go to Jasmine now. We know that Jasmine bought a little bundle with her this season. Yeah. First of all, was anybody fooled? Who didn't know she was? Who still did not know?
Amir.
Poor Amir.
Yeah, he's the one who definitely. We were like, how did you not know?
The minute she said she was drinking mocktails, we already knew. Of course we knew before this, but the minute she said I'm drinking mocktails and Silas wasn't there, I would have been like, girl, bye.
No, yeah. We were kind of all like, we were like, okay, it's offensive. I mean, I think it's offensive general, but I was like, as a man, I'm certainly not about to ask. And so I was just like, all right, I know what it is. Right? Like already knew, but I was like, I'm not about to question it.
Tell us when she's ready for us to know.
Yep.
Right. Yep. Okay. Well, so Jasmine, from last season to this season, I think last season, this is my perception, and I felt like Jasmine felt pressure to produce last year. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of her certain, trying to move certain conversations and throw things out. I think she sort of felt that pressure. That's how I took it as someone who was reviewing. I think this season, she was a lot more like, child, whatever y'all got going on. How do you feel like Jasmine came into this season?
I think think that's true. I mean, obviously now we know there was a little bit more pressure still, but very differently, right? But I agree with that. I think some people, to be honest, were a little frustrated because of it the first season.
Yeah, they were.
Because it was like, what is this? This is not the person we know. And I think, unfortunately, it kind of led to a lot of lack of trust that I think as a viewer, some viewers looked at it as just because of marriage. But I'm like, I actually think it's deeper than that. I think some people did not appreciate it and it looked different. And they started to not trust certain things with friendships because of it. And, that's on them to figure out. Hopefully they have and will in the future because it's more than one person, frankly. But, hopefully in the future. But I do think, and I appreciated Jasmine a lot more this time around because I do believe that, how do I say it? Like, I think it was more authentically her, like the one who I originally already knew.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I agree. And I hope so as well. That my brain went somewhere else as far as another question, but I want to stay here before I forget. So speaking of which, let's leapfrog into Jordan. Now, Jordan, Miss DJ is doing the thing, right? We saw that from last season. How do you, because to be fair to me, she seemed a little checked out about halfway through. So
I think so. I agree. I think she was, and it's interesting. I'm curious if you ever talked to her about this. I mean, I from some of our conversations, and I'll share what I think she wouldn't mind me sharing, Elise, is that I think for her, she didn't love some of the editing for herself and was kind of like, it feels like whenever I speak, you're going to make me angry anyway or make me messy or shady anyway. So let me just not speak. Let me just actually be here. And you get whatever you want to get from that. Viewers will think whatever they want to from that, which I found it a little unfair a little bit because I really do think she's so dynamic and you just, I think she was already kind of pigeonholed into being a particular way. And so I think it made her feel not even angry, I think hurt more than anything. Yeah. And she kind of just got silent because of it.
Yeah, I think so as well. What about Miss Bria?
Yeah, it's so funny. If nothing else, it was a copy paste from season 1 to 2. I was like, if nothing else, she's gonna be consistent. It doesn't mean I'm gonna like it sometimes.
Yeah,
I think yeah, go ahead. No, please.
No, go ahead. No, because I was gonna go to something else.
Yeah, it's so funny. Sometimes personalities don't blend, right? And I know people want everyone to love each other, right? But that's, Brie and I didn't know each other before we started filming. And frankly, we never hung out one-on-one enough outside of filming time to build a relationship. And so I think for us, really what you see is like us figuring out what the hell this even is. And I think viewers certainly picked up on a lot of it. And I think they appreciated what they didn't think other people were doing, which was calling her out on her stuff sometimes. Because it can just be exhausting, right? And that's just kind of where I was a lot with her. Does that make her the worst person in the world? Of course not. But I do think there are moments where I'm like, I don't like this side. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like what I'm observing. And I think from her perspective, she probably, frankly, thought I was singling her out a lot because she just wasn't used to it. Certainly not from me. Certainly not from me.
Right. Yeah. We fell in love with Milo, I think, this season. I love how last season Milo was such a big deal, and this season it was just like, hey Milo, what's up, Milo?
What's
Everybody
up?
was just kind of like, hey, Milo.
That's really what it was.
But Milo was like, I need a break from all of y'all. I'm just gonna go over here.
Leave me alone. I heard boarding school. Leave me alone.
Right. Ain't nobody sending me to boarding school. What is wrong with you? That was hilarious. But I love Milo. Summer, who came a little late last season, but she was there the whole time this season. But Summer seemed like, and we know she had a lot going on, but what about Miss Summer?
We are really good friends still and talk often. I mean, honestly, probably every day or every other day at least. And I do that actually with a few of them, frankly. But I more so just felt really bad for Summer this summer. Like it, you can always tell when people are going through something, but don't know what, or they're not really giving themselves the space to share. And so, I knew people were going to be really hard on Summer when the show came out, and she knew that as well. And And I got it. And I think she gets it too, right? I think she was like, no, what, I look crazy in some of this. Like, this is kind of wild. I think in other instances, it's like, damn, but if, I'm like, a lot of us, I won't say all of us, but a lot of us do the same things that many of us do. The difference is we get filmed. And so it's easy to be really critical. And that's the goal, right? That's the goal of reality TV, right? It's easy for people to digest and receive it a certain way. But I always remind people, I'm like, let me see your group thread. Let me see your group text message. Because I'm sure you're talking about another friend, right? I'm sure you're being messy too, right? But it's easy to pretend when you can't prove, right? Right. And so, but I always tell viewers, I'm like, listen, in love, I need y'all to check yourselves too, because you be doing some of the same stuff.
Listen, your social media was what it is today when I was in my 20s.
Look, no, same. Look,
and I wasn't smart enough to edit myself, baby. Yes, so I get it.
I would be going back to looking at what I would post at social media in my 20s, and I'd be like, why did I spell this DIS apostrophe? Why? Why did I spell that DAT? Why? Like, look, publicly, I was typing it. I said, oh, I'm so embarrassed with myself.
Okay, publicly, okay. Like, so let's jump over to the guys. Now, I'm going to be honest. I fell in love with Nick this season. I don't feel like I got a chance to know too much about Nick last season. But Nick's confessionals this season are hilarious. And I don't think he gets enough credit for how hilarious he is in his confessionals. Is that who Nick is?
Yeah, like, I think it's we always joke about him. I think it's because they give me the comedy more than him sometimes. He was like, damn it, Preston, why did they use your clip here? I said something funny. So it is fun because a lot of times you're trying to say it's because you're like, dang, we got 10 people to decide these confessionals with him. But no, that is him through and through. If that's why it's always easy for me to answer. If they were like, if you could pick any of the guys to hang out with, who would you pick? I'm like, Nick. Like it's easy for me. Because he really is funny and he's really sweet. Like, honestly, he is truly a great person. And so he's always the one friendship I will say. I mean, I'm really close friends with a good amount of them, but he is the one person I could say I am so grateful for how close we really got over the past year. Because he's somebody else I talked to literally. I mean, he actually just texted me. I'm not even joking. Literally, he must know I'm talking about him. Right. But we hang out so tough and we talk every day. But that is him. He's just funny and doesn't even know it sometimes. Like
I think right. And I get that impression that he doesn't know how funny he is sometimes. Yeah. Because sometimes it's just his faces. Like the faces they catch and the way he's just looking.
He looks like I'm like, stop that.
Exactly. And if there's ever, and you'll understand when we start going down the D9 list, if there's ever a stereotypical Kappa man, Nick is the stereotypical
quintessentially. Quintessential.
Absolutely. I love Nick. All right, Alex, who I personally think got a bad rap this season, but how do you think
Alex is very, you know what it is? I appreciate him speaking up a little bit more because I think it's easy to get a bad rap when you don't defend yourself. And so, I'm grateful that he did. I think he's also just trying to figure out this whole thing with reality TV because he already has his career as well. Like he has a music scene as well with a lot of his folks in New York. So I think he was also like, wow, I'm actually much deeper than this person who looks like a two-time loser, right? And so I think for him, that puts him in his head too. I think this is what's always going to be difficult about anyone who wants to do reality TV, because people love to believe that they will be great on reality TV because they think they have more control over what actually is shown. And I'm like, I know you think you will be, the dumb dada, the top of the list. Baby, people can come on here and they can hate you. Like you don't know that. And so, I think for some of us, like, there really are stories that are created around who we are and who they saw us to be in interviews and auditions, etc. Naturally, right? Because you're not going to put 10 of the same type of personalities together.
Right.
And so I think Alex was figuring all that out. But he and I are also really good. We have good relationships. And Alex, I think, really tries to focus on himself and, like, figure out, like, who he is.
Yeah. Definitely. And like I said, I think Alex got, as the season went on and I got, we got more information. I kind of think he got a little bit of a bad rap, but
yeah, and I get that.
Yeah, but okay. Last but not least, Amir.
Yeah.
Poor Amir.
What's interesting, and this is the thing I'm very blunt with people anyway, so I'm gonna tell people anything that I say in any interview.
Right.
I believe he is so confused about who he really is and is having a crisis that he would never call one. And I say this as someone who has a lot of love for him, but I think is really allowing potential things come up, and frankly, like Natalie directing things in ways that I think may not be healthy or helpful for him. And that's not even a relationship comment. That's a comment around, like, even let's take this back, right? Because I think about some things even as a viewer, though I'm also on the show. I think last summer, the way, obviously, it was like at least it seemed like a genuine curiosity around trying to understand Blackness. And then this time around came across as a little bit more distant and blame and accusatory of Blackness and Black folks in some instances. And Natalie isn't helping that. And so I just hope, and this is a genuine and sincere hope, I just hope he just figures it out and figures himself out and not allow other people to take him down a rabbit hole when he should really be in a phase of self-discovery.
Oh, that's a great way of saying it. All I'm gonna say, again, as a viewer, I pay attention to things that people do when maybe not necessarily they think it's a big deal. And at your cocktail hour, I think it said a lot that the way she spoke about what she makes, what he makes. I think that said a lot. And I'm gonna just leave that there.
Actually, and again, I don't know if this is gonna make it, but I will say, as I specifically brought that up at the reunion as well.
Yeah, that said a lot to me. My mother taught me you gotta let a man be a man, and But again, I'll leave that there.
Yeah.
So the last person I want to bring up, and then we'll talk about the future for Preston, is Phil. Right, complicated situation.
Right,
which going back to season 1. That was a lot, right? The 5 minutes that they showed Phil was a lot.
Right.
How much more did we not see?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. Like it, it's interesting because I think that's why my reaction was what it was, because for you, honestly, I can't focus on what I think viewers are going to think, right? I have to focus on, like, how I'm feeling in specific moments and based on what I know was seen or unseen. And so for me, I'm like, I feel away. A lot of y'all as cast know why I feel away. And at the end of the day, you can either speak up or not speak up, but I'm going to. And I'm going to be honest about how I'm feeling in specific moments. Do I believe Phil's apology? This is a question I get often. Andy asked me the same question. Like, do you believe that his apology was sincere? I'm like, that's an interesting question, right? Because I, if I'm honest, I'm not even in the phase of, like, trying to think about your sincerity. I am trying to honor myself and how I'm feeling in this moment through this conversation. Like, even if I accept an apology that's insincere, baby, God taught me well, because you will figure yourself out and God will handle you. And at the end of the day, I am intelligent enough to know it was an opportunity for him to be back on screen. And I do think he was a little self-reflective, probably more than I think people will give him credit for, because we don't see nothing but mess. But I do feel like he was like, oh my God, I actually don't love how I'm being viewed. And, he is from the DMV. So I knew people who were connected to him who were like, he's actually not as terrible. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what that was. So, for me, I had to be like, personally, I have to give you some grace just to let it go. Right. And I hate, to be honest, I hate that I'm that way sometimes. Like maybe it's my like community side, my activist side. But for me, it's like, I can't, I I have to teach people how to treat me. And so I'm like, let's have this conversation and move on. We're not going to be friends. But let's have this conversation and move on. And that's it. And honestly, I feel like I was in a better way than most people because my heart and head were clean and clear. I was like, I feel fine now. Like,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. As a viewer, my biggest thing was I can't accept an apology until I think you're clear on what you're apologizing for. I don't know if that was articulated to us as the viewers, whether he was fully understanding of what all he did. Like, I think he understood I was belligerent. I was an a-hole, but I don't know if he really truly understood to the depths. So I don't, you know what I mean? But again, it's not my apology to accept, but.
Correct. But you're still a viewer and you're still observing it. I mean, I would have to say he did not, because everything this is the thing that I was like, you are blaming alcohol and you have to stop putting everything on alcohol. Like that is like, yes, we all know it can be a severe inhibitor, and an upper in many respects. And you mean that. You felt that way. Right? Like, and so I'm like, I think you need to stop. And if that's how you stop drinking, right? Like figure it out. Like, don't come in here drunk. Right? Because then we can actually see who you are without all of that. And we all like to turn up, right? That's just the nature of everything. But I'm like, if every time you drink, you turn into this person, that's a deeper issue.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that overall on shows like Summer House, whether it's the regular Summer House or Summer House Martha's Vineyard, or a lot of these shows that focus on the group activity, hanging out in a house, whatever, I think that a lot of times bad behavior gets blamed on alcohol. And I agree. Alcohol is there. We like to have a good time. We like to turn up. However, now you have to take responsibility. And if you become a different person to that extent, then yes, you need to reflect on that. And maybe alcohol isn't your thing, or know when to stop, because we all know. Right.
Exactly.
So I appreciate your time, but I want to end with this right here. Where do we go next? What's next for Preston? I know earlier you said you started your own company. So do you want to share any of that, or where are we going next in the world of Preston Mitchum?
I love this question. So I think a lot of it, like my consulting company is a year and 3 months old now, which is so wild to say I've been an entrepreneur for that amount of time. A lot of it is PDM consulting. All of it focuses on, a mixture of areas, but back to my baby, the infancy of advocacy, policy, and legal work. A lot of it is on very progressive policy issues that I care a lot about. So I have some really dynamic clients who are both corporate and/or nonprofit organizations, really focusing on issues from abortion access to mental health to LGBTQ and racial equity, among other things. And so I do a lot of trainings, facilitation, speeches, speaking engagements. Pride Month is coming up, so I have a bunch of stuff slated for that. And so that's a mixture of that. I also, interestingly enough, during the season, launched my own clothing line, if you will, called the Preston Mitchum Collection. A lot of that you can find on PrestonMitchum.com/shop. Most of it is really quotes and quotables, and the meme that you featured. They're on t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, mugs. So you can find that. You can find quotes like, "Are you going to cry now?" on sweatshirts and t-shirts. So, for me, it's like, how to actually take things like reality TV to the next level for myself personally. Right. And so a lot of it is there's money to be made, and I'm happy to try to make it. And then really what's next is, I really finally started my book. I'm blessed enough to have friends who have been on the New York Times bestsellers list. And let me tell you, they text me every day saying, where are you with your book? So yes. Really happy to have started.
Partners. Yes.
Exactly. Oh my God. So really happily started that journey. It's frustrating in other instances and happy in others. But for folks to follow me along, Instagram, Twitter, Preston Mitchum or Preston.Mitchum, or of course, PrestonMitchum.com. But I really appreciate this opportunity in this conversation as well.
I have enjoyed it as well. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we're going to, you guys, make sure that you are tuning in. If you are watching this in real time, the reunion is this Sunday. You guys got a reunion this year. I'm so happy for you. And I look forward to whatever is coming next. And I'm going to slide in your DMs. We're going to go have some cocktails.
Look, ready.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and end it now. Thank you